Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Jones, better known as the Turf Teacher. Welcome to the course entitled Employee Management. Guys, this course can get you 1 credit towards your North Carolina Irrigation Contractors Licensing Board license renewal on the business side of house. So it is worth 1 continuing education credit for business on your irrigation license renewal. And employee management is taken directly from the NASCLA textbook that we use at the college, and it is also a textbook that is recommended for licensureship on your North Carolina landscape contractor's license. This is one of the study manuals for your landscape contractor's license, and I thought I would use it as a business hour towards your irrigation credit. So it comes directly from NASCLA, the Landscape Contractor's Guide to Business Law and Project Management. And employee management, guys, has been given the course number of 11820 from the North Carolina Irrigation Contractors Licensing Board. And so let's jump into the meat and potatoes of this lecture, guys. Employee management, that is something that is going to be an issue with most green industry companies from here on out, whether it be hiring new employees, and once you hire them, are you going to be able to keep them? Are you going to be able to keep them happy? Are they going to make you happy? And are they going to make our customers happy? Employee management is a topic of hot discussion here in the green industry. And so let's take a look at it and let's see what NASCLA has to say about it. And so our objectives, we're going to talk about interviewing the potential client. We're going to talk about hiring them. We're going to talk a little bit about new hire reporting. We're going to discuss hiring minors. A lot of times, we have to hire younger people, especially during the summer, when they're out for school. And it also plays into effect if we have children or nephews or nieces that may want to work for us in the afternoon, Saturdays, and definitely during the summer months when they're out of school. We're going to talk a little bit about employee documentation. We're going to talk about key employment laws. We're going to talk about the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA. And then we're going to talk about Immigration and Nationality Act. And, there's been a lot of changes in the green industry here in the past few years when it comes to using migrant worker or, using the Hispanic labor force. We'll talk a little bit about the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA. There are some other labor laws we'll discuss, and then there's the North Carolina wage and hour laws, and then your required postings that you must have in your office, and an employee handbook and policies, which is a big, big thing, guys. When you have employees, you need to have an employee handbook. I know North Carolina is a right to hire state, which means that you can fire anyone for any reason, but you better make sure that the reason that you are firing them is listed in the handbook, like if they showed up, with destroying your uniform. We've had guys show up, we give them brand new uniforms, they show up the next morning and they've cut the sleeves off of them because they don't think it's cool not to have sleeves. And we've seen all kinds of types. So guys, but you got to make sure you've got it documented in an employee handbook, and make sure that you have your policies like on attendance and everything else that's clearly stated out. And then what about employee satisfaction and their benefits? Unfortunately, guys, with today's issues of everybody wanting to sue everybody, you got to make sure that they're satisfied and that they're getting their benefits, and that they are treated with respect. And then what about disciplining or terminating an employee? You've heard my lecture in the past, like business insurance, where companies are being sued, or actually have not sued, but having workers' compensation claims filed against them for firing the employee wrongfully, like doing it in front of people, embarrassing them, which, I agree with that. You should do that in a confidential matter, but they didn't do it tastefully. They didn't do it respectfully. And so the judges are awarding workers' comp claims on that. So it's It's crazy out there. When you have people working for you, you got to stay on your toes. And always listen to Gary Vaynerchuk. He says that he is the HR-driven CEO. He has to make sure that his people are happy. And I agree. If you have a happy employee, they're going to do better work for you, and they're gonna treat your clients right. And coming from the green industry, that's maybe a little bit harder for us to accept because we're always out there working. It's hot work, it's sweaty work, it's just downright nasty at times depending on the work that we're doing. And so the last thing you want to hear about is an unhappy employee, but you have to take it into consideration, guys. And so interviewing and hiring that employee. So employees should start off with a few fundamental qualities. Are they qualified for the position? And guys, that starts with you. What is the type of individual you're looking for? Do you want them to have minimum qualifications, like a certificate from a community college, a certificate from one of the trades associations? Do you want that associate's degree? Do you want a manager that has a bachelor's degree? And I know here, starting in January of 2020, there are some new labor laws that are coming into effect about salaried employees, and I'm waiting on our payroll company to send us that information. I wish I'd have had it to bring it into this lecture, but there's certain definitions by the government that's stating who can be a salaried employee or not. And they were talking about individuals that work in the field and actually perform labor services are entitled to overtime work. And so you can't have a guy on a mowing crew that's salaried. They are going to have to be hourly and given that chance to make overtime. So, but you have to set the qualifications for the individuals that you're hiring. Are they motivated to do the job, and do they show initiative? Well, I think somebody that's coming out of a community college or a university that's got a degree in horticulture, landscape architecture, they're motivated. They know what they want to do. What scares me though is that a lot of these individuals think that they're going to get hired for $25, $30 off the bat, be given a clipboard and a pickup truck, and not have to work. That's what scares me with a lot of people. And I tell them straight up, guys, this is hard work. You're going to be doing manual labor. You're going to be toting block. You're going to be spreading mulch. You're going to be running a weed eater. You have to let them know what you're doing. And so you need to have the different positions that are available in your company, whether it's a maintenance crew, pruning crew, hardscape crew, irrigation crew. You need to have all of these jobs outlined and have a job description for them. And that will let you know, hey, do you want to do this type of work? Here it is. Here's our job description. Are you highly motivated enough to do this? Are they responsible for their work and actions? Well, if they don't have a driver's license, they're not going to be responsible to begin with, and that seems to be our biggest issue. We put an ad out there for employment, and the first thing we say is must have driver's license. And, we put in there, don't even call if you don't have a driver's license. And that is absolutely ridiculous, but they still call anyway. And they're like, hey, I don't have a driver's license. I've got 2 DWIs in the last 2 years, so I won't get my license back for 5 years or whatever. That's showing irresponsibility, and you don't want them to be a part of your company. Dependable, to show up on time and to keep work commitments. You got to ask them straight up. And I know, guys, there's certain questions you don't ask, during an interview, but just by talking to them, hey, what's your hobbies like? What do you like? What do you like doing after work? Things of that nature. You can pick up on a lot. And when you hear somebody say, hey, I like taking my kid to the ball field, I like doing this. my wife, she's salaried somewhere, or she's an hourly employee somewhere, so she's got to work as many hours as she can. So I'm hoping I get a job where, if the kids get sick, I can take them to work. Well, just start asking questions. What do you like to do for fun? What's a typical day like for you guys? When you're not working, you can learn a lot there, and not actually ask those questions like, do you have kids? Which you can't. But when you start just being nice and friendly to them, they'll tell you that information. And it's scary out there because. Well, I'll tell you straight up. We've had it where we've put people on salary, and then they're the first ones to take a day off. And they even expect to have the rainy days off. No, guys, if you're a salaried employee, you're going to be in the shop, you're going to be doing maintenance work and things of that nature. The hourly guys are the ones that show up all the time. And so I'm kind of glad that law is changing here in January, to be honest with you. But that dependable and to keep the work commitments. Hey, I need somebody to work on Saturdays. Well, I can't work on Saturdays because I coach my kids' soccer team. Well, you got to take that into consideration. We're the green industry. We work 6 days a week, during good weather. And then, are they open to learning new skills? Hey, we're needing somebody that we need to go and get sent to get some hardscape certifications. Are you willing to do that? Well, I can't go out of town and stay overnight. I can't do that. My wife ain't gonna let me do that. Well, maybe that's not the employee for you. So just be careful on certain questions not to ask them, but you can bring this stuff right here up off of this slide and kind of see where they're going to go when it comes to working for you. Asking the right questions is key to finding the right person for the job. The wrong questions could get you up on the stand in front of a judge, and that would be age. So like I said, don't ask about that. Don't ask about disabilities. Don't even ask if they're pregnant. And even though they may look pregnant, I mean, I've been called out for that just to a friend. Oh, hey, congratulations. How far along are you? Oh, I'm not pregnant, Eric. What are you talking about? Okay. You just been sitting at the dinner table a little too long. Are you married? Do you have children? And that's a shame and disgrace. You can't even ask that. You can't even ask that in a friendly manner anymore. Because people will say, hey, they didn't hire me because I have kids. Religion and sexual orientation or ethnic background. We shouldn't ask any questions pertaining to that, but just saying, hey, what's a typical day like? What do you like doing on the weekends? What's an average day like for you? When you're not working, you can pick up and you can find out a lot about this stuff and not ask these direct questions. Here are some areas to cover during the job interview that will be helpful in determining if an employee is the right fit for your company. Do you have the ability to work with others? No, I want to work by myself. Well, stick them on a pruning crew. Ability to handle conflict. That's a hard one. Everybody's going to say yes, they can handle conflict. So you're not going to get a truthful answer on that. What are your expectations of the job? Let them tell you what you think. What do you think you're going to be doing here? Well, I hope I get that pickup truck, that clipboard, and I hope the truck's new because I don't like riding in a dirty truck, and I don't want to wear a uniform. I'll wear my own stuff. I like to smoke. If I can't smoke or dip here, I don't want to be here. Ask them, what is your expectations? They'll kind of tell you, and that may or may not tell you whether or not you need to hire them. What is their past work history and reasons why they even left, or what made them change career fields, or however. What is their level of skill or expertise? And of course, everybody's going to tell you they're the expert. I like having a weed eater on site at a job interview when people say they've been on a mowing crew for 5 years or worked somewhere else for 5 years. Hey, go pick up that weed eater. It ain't got no string in it. Go ahead and put some string in it and crank it up, and I want to see you take down off that sidewalk. That's going to tell me whether or not they're lying or not. Hey, guys, show up this job interview. You're going to show me how that you can run a weed eater, and let's see. That's the first test, and if they can't pass that, there ain't no more questions to even ask them. What is their training and education? Do they have any certifications? Do they have any degrees or anything like that? Ask them about safety. What about their philosophy for safety? Yeah, well, I'm not wearing safety glasses. I got my own shades that I'm aware, and I definitely ain't gonna wear one of those fluorescent vests that I see a lot of these companies make these people wear. That's telling you a lot. Problem solver. Well, yes, I can solve problems, Eric. And then first situation comes up, they're bugging you on the cell phone. They can't even figure out how to string up that weed eater. Knowledge of your company. Do you know much about us? Do you know how long we've been in business? Have you seen us around? Tell us your thoughts on our company and where did you hear about us? And then ask them, do they have any questions about the job? And any good potential candidate is going to have some questions. If they don't have questions about their job, then they're just there for a paycheck, and that's the problem. People just want to get paid. They're not really into it. You got to find that person that's got the passion. And I know, guys, you've heard me say again and again, talk to your high school guidance counselor, talk to your agriculture teachers in the high school, your shop teachers, anything that's got like a trades program in the high school. And we're starting to see those return to the high schools. So get to know those teachers and get to know those counselors and show up at the school. Sponsor some football games, basketball games, whatever it is. Have your equipment there, have some trucks there, and really be involved, because not everybody's meant for college and not everybody's meant for the military. And you've heard, if you listen to my radio station or listen to Turfs Up Radio, you heard my show this week. We talked about the 3,800 graduates that's happening in Forsyth County, and they're saying that 40% of those students have already been identified as not having a plan, which means they have not applied for college or enlisted in the military. They are unsure of what they're going to be doing once they graduate high school this coming May or early June. That's over 1,500 students, guys. I mean, there ain't but so many jobs in a big box store or fast food for these individuals. And that's an average. That's happening every year. We invited every single one of those students to campus last year at our community college. We had about 750 show up. So it was about half that showed up. And we got a lot of people interested in some of the trades programs. And so you've got to be there as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, and saying, hey, we're hiring. This is a career potential spot that we have for you. If you want to come on board, we have some, work and be able to save up some vacation days. You work here long enough, we'll do some tuition reimbursement and things of that nature. So the young people is the future for the trades. And we as the business owners have to make this career attractive. We have to make it look sexy. We have to make people want to be a part of it. And the good thing about it, guys, we got some cool equipment. So that's what we've got to get them out there and show. So new hire reporting. You are required to report all new employees to the North Carolina New Hire Reporting Program no later than 20 days from the date of hire, rehire, or if you've laid them off and recalled them back. You have to notify the state within 20 days. Failure to comply with the new hire law could result in a $25 fine per incident or failure to report, or if conspiracy to avoid reporting is determined, a fine of up to $500. So guys, please make sure that you report it. You need to have that procedure in process. You need to have an in-processing station, basically, almost, when you bring somebody on board, that all of these forms and everything is in a file folder, and you just grab a new folder that's got all these documents in it, and then they can fill it out once you guys have agreed on employment. So make sure you report to our government. New hire reporting. Again, the following data must be included for each new hire. The employer name, the corporate name. So if you're an Inc. or an LLC, you got to have that total, that full business name. Your mailing address, your federal identification number, your employee state identification number, employee name and address, the employee social security number, and the employee date of hire, date of birth, and date of hire. All must be reported to the state. Hiring minors. All right. So hiring your kids, working them to death during the summer, not letting them go to Myrtle Beach, making them stay home and cut grass. It's what I did growing up. Not ashamed to admit it. But state law requires employee certificate for minors under the age of 18. When school is in session, a minor 14 or 15 years of age may not begin work before 7 a.m. They can work no later than 7 p.m., 9 p.m. between June 1st and Labor Day for the summer. So, that's, if you're a farmer, you're able to work a little bit later. And plus, it's cooler in the evenings, right? or more than 3 hours a day or more than 18 hours a week, work is prohibited during the school hour. And so look at that. A 14 or 15-year-old can work no more than 3 hours a day or more than 18 hours a week. So that's three 5-hour days. If they're getting out of school at 3 o'clock, they can work until 6. And there's no Saturdays if they work Monday through Friday. So, but if they work 8 on Saturday, that gives them 7 hours through the rest of the week. A minor 14 or 15 years of age may not begin work before 7, work past 7 p.m. between June 1st. And let's see. This is the minor 14 or 15 years of age may not begin work before 7. Same as the previous one. Work past 7 p.m., 9 p.m. between June 1st and Labor Day, or more than 8 hours a day, or more than 40 hours a week when school is not in session. So during the summertime, they can work a full 40 if they are 14 or 15 years old. It's just when school is in session, they can only work those 15 hours. And then federal restrictions on working hours or number of hours does not exist for minors 16 or 17 years old. So these are the ones that are 14 and 15. When they get 16 or 17, they're probably going to be able to work a little bit more because you go out to eat and you see the bus boys. My nephew, that's what he does, but he only does it on Friday and Saturday nights for a high-end restaurant here in Winston-Salem. And this is the individual that's gotten letters from Harvard, Wake Forest, and West Point. So he's busting tables right now, and he graduates in June. And he does not have anything. He does not want anything to do with landscaping. All minors are prohibited in occupations considered hazardous. Well, some of that stuff we probably do is hazardous. Power-driven woodworking machines, circular saws, bandsaws, or guillotine shears. So we can't out there having them do tree work with us. We can't have them build an arbor, when they're running the saw and stuff. They can't run elevators or power-driven hoisting apparatuses. They can't run power-driven metal-forming punching or shearing machines, nor can they drive or be an outside helper. And then exposure to radioactive substances or ionizing radiations is also prohibited. So there's certain things that they're not going to be able to do. And so guys, in our industry, they're going to be running a backpack blower. They're going to be spreading mulch. They're going to be spreading pine needles. They're going to be doing kind of the easier work that day laborers can do. I wouldn't have them applying a pesticide or anything like that. But however, they can get their pesticide license in North Carolina at 16 for the not the ag set, but the farmer or private certification. They can get at 16. They got to be 18 to do it commercially. So just be careful on some of the jobs that you have these individuals doing, these young folks. All minors are prohibited in occupation, again, considered hazardous. Manufacturing brick, tile, or related products. That's manufacturing. Roofing. They can't get on the roof, and so, man, they can't do Christmas lights for us either. And then excavation. They don't want them near the trenches or anything like that. So, again, be particular on the jobs that you can do. We use a lot of minors on the strawberry farm. My nephews, they're all of them are driving now except one. And he's too young to have any interest in it. But, we use them on the strawberry farm. They pick for us. They tote the baskets out, load them up on the gator in a little trailer, and do things of that nature. So they're not doing anything very, very dangerous or hard. And strawberry work is hard. But employee documentation. These items should be included in your employee files. Again, like I said, you need to have that in station or in processing station. It reminds me of the military. Every time you report to a new base or a new unit, you've got to in process. But you should have all of these forms in that folder. So all you got to do is grab a blank folder, write their name up there on the tab, and you've got these documents for them. But you need the form I-9 to make sure they're legal citizens. You need the W-4, W-5, a state tax form, an employment application that they need to fill out, and then policy sign-offs. You need to be able to give them a copy of your employee handbook, and they need to sign off that they've read it and that they've acknowledged receiving a copy of it. And then some emergency notifications. And they also probably need to have a form in there like emergency contacts in case, that they were to get hurt, who would we notify right off the bat. But again, like I said, keep this in a folder and you'll be able to show it or pull it right out of the file cabinet when you hire somebody brand new. All right, key employment laws. There is the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA. It went in effect July 24th, 2009, when the federal minimum wage was changed to $7.25 an hour. And guys, I hope and pray that you're paying your people more than $7.25 an hour. You're not going to find career employees if you're paying somebody minimum wage, straight up. And that really ticks me off. I hear a lot of contractors say, I can't find good help. Well, how much are you paying? All I have to pay is $7.25. Well, no wonder nobody's coming to work for you, guys. And I swear, if all I was capable of making was $7.25, I don't think the green industry would be the place that I would be looking for work. I'd be looking for somewhere inside. At least I'm in the air conditioning in the summertime, and somewhere it's warm in the colder weather. So you got to pay people, guys. Minimum 10 to start off, probably basic labor, and maybe a little bit higher than that, guys. But employers must pay overtime 1.5 times the regular rate after 40 hours in a work week. And the good thing about that, guys, you can control overtime. So, but it is only fair to the hourly employee that they get a time and a half for anything over 40. Wages must be paid on a regular pay day for the pay period covered. So it needs to be standard. We are implementing pay in bi-weekly starting in January. We used to pay every Friday, and now we're moving it to every other Friday. And we are going to direct deposit for our guys so they don't have to rush home on Friday afternoons and get to the bank before 6 o'clock because a lot of times we're just not getting jobs done that we need to. They have to rush back, leave a job where we've only got 30 minutes of work left. We may be missing that opportunity of the customer paying us because we finished that time. So direct deposit is going to help us big time. The Act restricts the hours children under 16 can work and forbids the employment of children under 18 in jobs deemed too dangerous. And we just talked about that on the previous slides. Exemption status, these are the individuals that are getting salary. So executives, so if you're the owner, yes, you can get a salary. Administrative personnel, because they're going to be in the office 8 to 5 typically anyway. Professional employees, so if you've hired a landscape architect that has a professional license, they could be on a salary. Outside sales employees, so if you have a salesman or sales lady, they could be put on salary. And then certain computer occupations based on the Department of Labor can be exempt. And so, guys, and me and my wife were talking about this the other night. She's salary where she works, and she's salary. But if she's sick, she still has to take a day off. She's charged leave, and they accrue so much a month. Our employees think because they're on salary, hey, they can just take off. Hey, man, I'm going to the beach next week. Or we do that every week. Every summer we go to the beach this time of year, and I got to get paid. Can I get paid before? I need that extra money to get down there. And then they're sick. Then their kid's sick. So if they're on salary, they just take advantage of it. And we didn't really have a policy in place where they accrued leave or sick time. And that is the main reason that we have switched over to a payroll service, because they take care of all that for us. And don't understand why we hadn't been using a payroll service, in the previous years, as cheap as it is, and the time and the hassle that it saves you. But so a work week is a period of 168 hours during 7 consecutive 24-hour periods. It may begin on any day of the week and at any hour of the day established by an employer. So that gives you some leeway on when your pay periods start. Work hours. Hours to include all time employee is required to be on the employer's premises, on duty, or at a prescribed workplace. Employee coverage. Compliance with age requirements and application of most exemptions are determined on a work week basis. And so out of that 168 hours, working overtime and stuff. And guys, like you can have your week start on a Wednesday and end on a Tuesday. It's 7 days, which will give you the 168 hours. And so, yeah, you may work a lot of hours, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday because you're in the grass cutting business, and then you can take Monday and Tuesday a little bit lightly and kind of keep that overtime under control, because none of us likes having to do that. Employment practices not covered. Vacation, holiday, severance, or sick pay, that's going to be up to you. Meal or rest periods, holidays off, or vacations. And surely, if you care enough about your employees, you're paying them for the holidays, the major ones anyway. Premium pay for weekend or holiday work, yeah, but you don't necessarily have to do that. If they're working for us on the weekend, it is time and a half, but set that pay week Wednesday to Wednesday. You don't have to worry about that so much. Pay raises and fringe benefits. They need to know what their fringe benefits are. They need to know that they're covered under workers' comp, general liability, and if you're offering health insurance, which I'm sure most of you guys are doing. And then the reason for discharge, payment of final wages, to terminate the employee or to discharge it. All of this is stuff that you're going to have to take care of yourself. It is not covered under FSLA. So this is why we need what? We need our employee handbook. And guys, I've helped people out in the past with that. So if you need help with it or whatever, give Turf Teacher a call. I like keeping it in electronic form. And then printing it out, putting it in the 3-ring binder. And so, you can take sheets out that are no longer pertinent to your business or whatever. So easy enough to do. FSLA record keeping, you need to keep personal information, the name, address, occupation, sex, birth date, if under 19. Basics on which the wages are paid. Why are you paying them this? Well, you've got a job description. You've got a position that describes that job, and that's what it pays. That's how you're paying them. The hour and day when the work week begins, the total hours worked each work day and each work week. That's why I love a payroll service and the time clock that they provide us. And then total daily or weekly straight time earnings, and then their regularly hourly pay rate is what must be kept in your records. Weekly overtime earnings, the total overtime pay for the work week, and then any deductions from or additions to the wages, and then the total wages paid each pay period, and then the date of payment and the pay period covered. All must be kept for FSLA record keeping purposes. And that is, that's why I'm looking forward to ADP helping us out with our payroll starting in January, because all of that is pretty much kept for us. The employee gets a copy, they get an email copy of their pay stub, and then the money just goes in direct deposit. FSLA penalties that you may encounter. Enforcement of FLSA is carried out by investigators stationed across the U.S. They conduct investigations and gather data on wages, hours, and other employment conditions or practices in order to determine compliance with the law. Where the violations are found, they may recommend changes in employment practices to bring an employer into compliance. Willful violations of employment may be prosecuted criminally, and the violator fined up to $10,000. So, guys, if you make a oops and make a boo-boo, and you really didn't know you were making a boo-boo, they're probably just going to help you get in compliance, just like the pesticide inspector, right? That's why I like having them come over. Hey, man, do you see anything wrong with their shop or storage area? They're going to let you know, and they're going to be very appreciative of it. So I don't know of anybody that's had any penalties. I mean, if you guys have, leave a comment below on the YouTube video here, and just talk about it. it's good to know what's going on out there. We've not had any experiences with this, and like I said, I don't know anybody else that has had a violation. Immigration and Nationality Act requires the employers to verify the employment eligibility of all individuals hired. These I-9 forms must be completed with required documentation within 3 days of hire. You got to do it. Make them do it that first day, guys, so you don't forget. Have it in that file folder that you give to them to fill out while they're sitting there in the office. The Form I-9 is available for download on the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website at the URL of www.uscis.gov. Discrimination based on national origin or citizenship status is prohibited. Employers may be ordered to pay civil monetary penalties of $375 to $3,200 per individual discriminated against. Guys, oh my goodness. I don't think I've ever heard of any landscape contractor turning somebody down based on national origin or citizenship. We need everybody to work, right? So, if they've got a heartbeat, they're working for us if they want a job. So, but guys, please, I hope that none of us have ever been charged with something like that. That's not good to have on your record, and that's not being a good person. Discriminating like that. Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA prohibits discrimination in all employment practices, including job application procedures, hiring, firing, advancement, compensation, training, and other term conditions and privileges of employment. You cannot discriminate, guys. Equal opportunity in selecting, testing, and hiring qualified applicants with disabilities. Well, there's certain things, probably certain disabilities that we couldn't hire for, but there may be a position in your company that somebody with a disability could handle. So guys, always interview them. Think of, you've probably got some type of job that these individuals they could be a benefit to your company, and it really benefit the employee as well. Job accommodation for applicants and workers with disabilities when such accommodations will not impose undue hardship. So you've got to do that. You've got to provide them accommodations, and then equal opportunity in promotion benefits. And so guys, always look, look at everyone for these job positions. You never know when somebody's going to be the right fit for you. Qualified individuals with disabilities. Employment discrimination is prohibited against qualified individuals with disabilities. An individual is considered to have a disability if that individual has a physical or mental impairment that sustainably limits one or more major life activities or has a record of such. Examples would be epilepsy, paralysis, HIV, AIDS, substantial hearing or visual impairment, mental retardation, specific hearing disabilities or learning disabilities. And yes, guys, somebody that is visually impaired may not be able to run a lawnmower for you. That's just that's the way it is. So an employer is required to accommodate a known disability of a qualified applicant or employee unless it imposes an undue hardship on the operation of the employer's business. And so there you go. You can't hire somebody that's blind to run a lawnmower for you or drive a truck. So, but you may be able to have that office manager that has a disability that could be in a wheelchair, and they could be the right fit for you. So what I'm trying to say is don't be prejudiced, and don't dismiss anybody that may have that disability, because they could be that key person for you that helps you run the operation in the office setting. Other labor laws: the Davis-Bacon Act, the Walsh-Neely Public Contracts Act. I'm not really going to go over much of this because we got about 10 to 15 minutes left, and we've got about 16 more slides. But then there's Contract Worked Hours and Safety Standards Act. There's the Wage Garnishment Law, There's the Employee Polygraph Protection Act, Employee Polygraph Protection Act, and then there's the Family and Medical Leave Act, which, that's probably the only one that we've ever had any dealings with. Somebody has a child, they're given the time to spend those first few weeks with their child. And guys, you may not know this, but men are also entitled to maternity leave when a baby is born. And so, guys, I would honor that. I would. They don't necessarily have to be paid. They're just able to take that time. So, if they've earned their sick time and leave time that's been kept up, there's nothing wrong with honoring that for somebody. And what it is, you've got to plan for it in advance when you know that's going on. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of '64, the Equal Pay Act of 1963, the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act, and then Title III of the Consumer Credit Protection Act. And then there's the Uniform Services Employment and Reemployment Rights, USERRA. I've actually had to kind of use that or at least let my employer know, and at the college, that I have the right to be activated when I was in the Army Reserve. And it wasn't like that, at first. When I first joined the military in '91, I actually had to drop a class because we did our annual training in January instead of the summer. It was crazy that had happened. And so I had to drop an English class and take it the following summer because my teacher wasn't going to work with me. But I go, that's not, they weren't my employer, but still they should have been able to work with me a little bit on that. But I've actually had to, I was told one time at the college that by a superior that I wish that I could take my orders and do what with it. And so I had to go to the higher ups because I received orders to go to Fort Bragg for some training, and it really just made my superior a lot just infurious that I shouldn't do that. And I had my classes covered. I was going to be going for 2 weeks, 10 days. And they couldn't do it. So I just had to call up retired sergeant major that made a phone call and says, he has the right to do that, and he's under obligation because he's an active drilling soldier. And then there's the right to work. This is a right to work state, guys, which means that you can fire anybody for any reason and that they can quit for any reason. So, I'm glad we are a right to work state. So it makes it a lot easier to get rid of people, but you still got to do it in a diplomatic way, and you still need to have a reason for doing it. You can't just say, "Hey, you're fired." I mean, technically you can, but then they also have the right to possibly sue you for some type of discrimination or how you did it in an undiplomatic manner. So always be careful with that. Basically you're probably going to be firing them because they didn't show up to work or they kept being late every single morning. So that is a reason. And if that is in the employee handbook, you're covered, guys. And so the North Carolina wage and hour laws, wage payment, wages are due on the regular payday. If you've got payday set up, guys, you can't say, "Hey man, I'm gonna have to pay you next week. I just ain't got the money." You better figure out a way, or you better have a line of credit at the bank to help you make payroll. Payment on termination. The employer must pay an employee who is voluntarily or involuntarily terminated within 48 hours or the next regular payday, not to exceed 30 days. So if they quit, and you're paying bi-weekly and they quit 1 week into it, you can wait to the next payday to do it. Withholding of wages. No employer may withhold or divert any portion of an employee's wages unless required or empowered by the state or federal law. And yes, we have had all of those individuals that have to have their child support deducted from their paycheck because they've been known not to pay it. And so you'll be notified pretty quick if that's going to happen. Employer furnish and certain information. Employees must be notified of pay days, pay rates, policies on vacation and sick leave, commissions, bonuses, and other pay matters. You need to let it know, and that needs to be in the employee handbook. Wage disputes. When the amount of wages is in dispute, the employer's payment of the undisputed portion cannot restrict the right of the employee to continue his or her claim for the rest of the wages. Now let's read that again. When the amount of wages is in dispute, so hey man, you didn't pay me enough. The employer's payment of the undisputed portion cannot restrict the right of the employee to continue his or her claim for the rest of the wages. Guys, you still got to pay them. Just do it. Then, you know, that's you're going to hear me say this again and again. That's why I'm glad we have a payroll service. That's why we have a pay clock, you know, provided to us from the payroll service. And so it just makes it everything so much easier. Overtime. Time and 1/2 must be paid after 40 hours of work in any one work week. Required posting. Some of the statutes and regulations enforced by agencies within the U.S. Department of Labor require that posters or notices be posted in the workplace. A complete list of posting can be found at www.dol.gov or departmentoflabor.gov. Safety and health. OSHA, North Carolina Department of Labor responsibilities, the employer's rights and responsibilities, employees' rights and responsibilities, and other OSHA information. The Wage and Hour Act, meaning the minimum wage, overtime, youth employment, wage payment, complaints, and right to work laws. And then unemployment insurance certificate of coverage and notice to workers as to benefit rights. You have to let them know that is a benefit, guys, that you're providing unemployment insurance. And then workers' compensation notice posters. I mean, so those are required to be hanging somewhere in your office or shop. Now, with your employee handbook, you need to have that company history. How long has the company been in business? What is it that you do? How it was started? All that. Compensation guidelines, payroll distribution. Guys, sometimes it's going to be hard for somebody coming into work, working the, if you're on a biweekly status in pay and you hire them halfway through one pay period, they may be held for a pay period. And so you need to let them know up front that that's going to take place. What are their benefits that they're getting? What are some of the things other than workers' compensation and unemployment insurance? Are you offering health insurance? Do you have a health plan that they can buy into? What are some other benefits that you may need? It needs to be listed. What are your normal working hours? Well, typically we're 8 to 5 and in the evenings later if must be. How do they get the overtime? What is required for that? How do they get their vacation and sick pay? You need to have about sexual harassment, that is not tolerated. That is 100% termination. Illegal drugs and alcohol. It needs to be stated that if you're found using drugs or if we do drug testing and it comes back positive, you're 100% terminated. You need to have a non-discrimination policy, rules of conduct, no cursing, no smoking, no eating in the trucks, whatever you want to do, it needs to be in there. You need to have your safety policies and how many training sessions that they need to attend. The equipment and tool policies. Hey, if they check out they get one of the tractors that they need to bring it back, it needs to be serviced, it needs to be fueled up so the guys the next day can get it. And then any disciplinary action procedures that may need to take place because of something that they've done wrong. Hey, if you're tardy more than 3 times in a pay period, this is going to happen. If it happens again, then you'll be terminated from employment. All of that needs to be stated. Employee satisfaction, and we're talking about benefits here. The stronger company loyalty and corporate culture. If they've got these benefits, guys, they're just going to feel like this is a real job and a career job, and they're more apt to stay. There's usually higher quality work and customer satisfaction, and we all know that our customers are the main boss. There's lower employee turnover, and then there's increased productivity. And guys, I know that's why you can't pay minimum wage, and anybody cannot, there's not one person that can raise a family on minimum wage. And so you've got to help them with better pay and better benefits. So motivating the employees, provide informal and formal training opportunities for employees to learn new skills, help them get their pesticide license, help them get their irrigation or landscape contractor license. Well, Eric, I'm training my future competitor. No, you're not, guys. being self-employed and an entrepreneur is one of the hardest things to do. And trust me, I know a lot of people in the green industry that's like, I will never own my own business. I will work for somebody before I do that. But help them get their license. That gives them pride. That motivates them and makes them feel good. Empower the employees to make decisions and give positive and constructive feedback. Again, we already talked about that. We need to relinquish some of our control and put it on the backs of our employees, and that's going to help them feel better. Provide clear expectations for your employees. What do you expect from them? Conduct performance reviews on a regular basis, and you have to do that. You have to let them know, hey, you're doing a good job or you're doing a bad job. Mentor your employees and tell them about advancement opportunities in your company and the industry. Hey, there's a new certification out there. We'll be glad to help you get it if you're interested. And then recognize and reward employees for good work. And things such as a polo or a nice jacket or a new hat that they can wear out, other than the job site, that it's a little bit nicer, helps them feel good, and it brings that pride in working for a company like that. And the value of job descriptions, you've already heard me talk about it here in this lecture. Job descriptions give employees a guideline for the responsibilities of their job. The job descriptions benefit employees because they understand your expectation of their performance. These descriptions should contain a few basic elements. One, the job title. Hey, you're a landscape crew member. You're a landscape technician. You are a crew leader. You are a job foreman. You are a landscape estimator. So whatever it is that you've got, it needs to have a title. There needs to be a description, including who the position reports to and a summary of the job purpose. What is it that you're going to be doing and who's going to be telling you to do it? Key responsibilities, required license and or certifications if known, and then the skills and knowledge needed. Guys, this is easy to type up. Some of your local trade associations will be able to help you with that as well. And like I said, give Turf Teacher a call. Providing benefits. Offering benefits plans can be an effective means of attracting and retaining good employees. And guys, that is the God's honest truth. Traditional employee plans include health insurance, dental, vision, long-term disability, life insurance, 401k, and other retirement plans. And what it is, guys, most of this can be on the employee's back. Offer it, and they've got to actually buy into it. And yes, maybe pay the health insurance for the employee. That's what they do at the college for me. They pay for mine. A portion of it, I still got to pay, I think 150 out of a pay period for just mine. But if I was to put the entire family on it, it would cost me almost $800 a month. And luckily, I don't have to do that, being retired Army and having TRICARE. And so my kids will be on TRICARE until they're 26, as long as they're staying in school. So offer this to them, and you're going to get the key employees for that. Workers' compensation laws provide monetary compensation to employees who are injured or disabled on the job. North Carolina program, if you're a sole proprietorship, partnership, or LAC, you are required by law to carry workers' compensation coverage if you have 3 or more employees. So once you hit that third person working for you, you got to have it. Guys, I would have it if I had 1. I would not operate without workers' compensation because you never know when somebody's going to get hurt. We're kind of in a dangerous business. I mean, climbing on ladders, pruning shrubs, we're running trenchers. You never know what can happen. The North Carolina Employment Security Law establishes guidelines for state unemployment tax. Business entities are subject to an unemployment payroll tax if they have 1 or more employees for 20 weeks during a calendar year, or pay $1,500 in wages a calendar quarter during a calendar year. So you got to pay that unemployment tax. And that's why I like a payroll service, because it does it for us. All right, so there's the SUTA dumping. These are more about providing benefits. Then there's COBRA. So if an employee is terminated, they can actually continue their coverage through COBRA, which is very expensive for them. And then there is the HIPAA. You cannot really discuss anything about someone's health to anybody, guys. HIPAA is a big thing. And being a medic in the Army, we had so much HIPAA training, it was unreal. All right, discipline in employees. Corrective action may be necessary from time to time for employees who are not following the policies and procedures properly. Employers need to administer discipline fairly to promote a respectful work environment and to avoid trouble later. So you have to treat everybody the same, guys. If you have two people that mess up the same way, they both need to have equivalent disciplinary actions brought against them. You can't be rougher on one and softer on the other. Progressive discipline, a method of corrective action where the consequences of the improper behavior become more significant if it continues. It gives the employees a chance to take corrective action to prevent future disciplinary action. And guys, yes, nobody's perfect. They're going to mess up. And so what you need to do is give them a little bit of leeway to correct it themselves. Terminating, you are fired. When terminating an employee, you want to make sure that you have followed the proper procedures to minimize your risk of wrongful termination lawsuit. Contractual employees. When terminating a contractual employee, it is important to comply with the terms of the contract. If the contract is breached, you may be subject to a lawsuit. And at will employees means that either the employer or the employee may terminate employment at any time without notice or cause. There are restrictions that you should be aware of as an employer. So you can actually quit. You can fire them, but they can also quit, and they don't necessarily have to give you a 2 weeks notice. That's why we are at a at will state, which means that you can fire or they can quit at any given moment in time. And then restrictions when terminating at will employees include an employer may not terminate an employee for discriminatory reasons. An employer cannot terminate an employee for taking time off to serve on a jury. Reporting health and safety violations and abuses of power cannot lead to termination. All employers should use good faith and fair dealing throughout employment. Documenting poor performance is recommended. So guys, if you're having a troublesome employee, if you're documenting it and you're having these quarterly or monthly evaluations, it's going to make it a lot easier when you do have to terminate that employee. And that actually wraps up employee management, which is course number 11820, and it is referenced from the NASCLA Landscape Contractors Guide, and you can find more there about employee forms at their website there, nasclaforms.org. And if you buy the booklet, you get the password and stuff like that to actually help you create an employee handbook and things of that nature. So it's a really good book. It's it's an inexpensive book, and you can buy it from the North Carolina Contractors Licensing Board, or I'm sure on Amazon. So anyway, guys, I appreciate it. This is Eric Jones, a turf teacher, and I'll see you in the next lecture.